It's been 7 years. Can you stop simping? I don't like you at all. The moment the girl turned away, I knew my 7 years of unrequited love had come to an end. I collapsed on the roadside in a daze, like a gambler who had lost everything, completely defeated. Hello, here, have a candy when you're feeling down. The girl's voice was soft and weak. After speaking, she turned and left. Something extra was left in my hand, a small piece of candy. I never thought that at my lowest point, a simple candy would warm my heart. By the time I reacted, the girl had already lowered her head and gone back to handing out flyers. But the scene before my eyes made me pause. "Are you blind?" a man yelled, splashing hot soup all over the girl's arm. The flyers in her arms scattered all over the ground, but she just kept her head down, afraid to let the tears fall. I rushed forward in a single stride and gently pulled the girl behind me. "Are you sick? You're drunk and bumped into this young girl, and now you're biting back." Seeing the increasing number of onlookers, the man left dejectedly. "Are you okay?" "Thank you." I saw that the girl's arm was already red. "You should rinse it with cold water immediately, and then buy some medicine to put on it." The girl kept her head down, silent, leaving only a single tear on the ground. "Why are you unhappy? Because your dad might not be cured of his illness? Here, have this bubble machine. It makes lots of bubbles. It's really fun. What's your name?" "I'm Yelong Xia. Have a candy when you're sad. My mom said we should return a favor, so here." The little girl gave the little boy the bracelet on her wrist. She had made it herself, so it was only a wooden bead and a red string. "Thank you, it's very pretty. This city has millions of people, and I didn't expect to see you again. But we can at least look at the same sky." It was night now, and I aimlessly walked to a nearby park. Suddenly, I saw a familiar figure. Isn't that the girl handing out flyers this evening? She was sitting alone on a bench under a street lamp. After a moment of hesitation, I walked up to the girl. "Why are you still out so late, not home yet?" The girl flinched, startled by the sudden voice. After seeing who it was, she quickly lowered her head and sniffled. "I come here when I'm feeling down." I thought back to what happened this evening and asked, "Did you put medicine on your burn?" "No, wait for me." A few minutes later, I returned, catching my breath. "What's wrong with you? Burns can be serious if not treated." She looked like a complete pushover. I immediately squatted down in front of her and nudged her arm with the medicine tube, gesturing for her to apply it. The girl actually extended her arm and then froze. She doesn't speak up even when she's yelled at, and now she won't move unless I tell her to. "How dense is she?" I muttered to myself, then decided to apply it for her myself. Even though the street lamp wasn't very bright, I could still see that the burned area on the girl's arm was red, and even a little peeled. "Did you rinse it with cold water or not?" "Rinsed. I rinsed it." The girl's voice was very quiet, timid, but pleasant to the ear. Although I felt my tone was gentle, for some reason she looked as if she was being scolded and kept her head down. "Then why didn't you go to the pharmacy?" My shift wasn't over yet, and buying medicine costs a lot of money. I was a little speechless and could only silently apply the ointment to the girl's burn. "There, that should do it. There's plenty of ointment left. Remember to apply it frequently." I instructed. I looked up and found the girl staring blankly at me. A sudden gust of wind blew her bangs aside, revealing her clear, gem-like eyes and her pure, fair face. Suddenly, the world felt strangely silent. At that moment, my eyes were only on her. After a long time, the girl, who had recovered her senses, lowered her head. Her face flushed with shyness. She whispered, "Please, don't look at me anymore, okay?" I smiled for no reason. She was stating something perfectly reasonable, yet she asked it as if she were begging. I quickly stood up, looked at the time. It was past 11. "I'll take you home." The girl nodded softly. Then the two of us walked together on the street. "My name is Chen Lu. Lu, as in the road to nowhere. What about you?" "My name is Liang Ziru." The girl was still looking down at my shadow. She said, "Thank you for buying me the medicine. I'll pay you back." After saying that, she reached into her pocket for her phone. However, her words somehow warmed my heart. So, even for something this small, someone would say thank you to me? As I was still in a daze, I saw the girl's small mouth slightly open, her eyes blinking, and she said blankly, "My phone, the battery is dead." At the same time, her small, trembling hand held the phone up to me, and she deliberately pressed it a couple of times, looking a little helpless. I couldn't help but curve my lips. "You seem a little simple." "It's okay. The medicine was cheap, it cost less than 10 kwai. The girl didn't say anything more out of embarrassment. She pursed her lips and continued to look down. After a while, she suddenly said very seriously, "Actually, I'm very smart." On the way, I casually observed this somewhat timid girl. Why does such a beautiful girl hide herself all the time? Why do you always look down? You should be more confident. A long time passed before the girl slowly spoke. That way, people won't notice me easily. Time seemed to pass in the blink of an eye. The girl led me to a bus stop shelter. She whispered, "I'll wait for the bus here. It's very close to home once I get off." I looked at the time. We had been walking for over 10 minutes already. "Do you go through this every day?" Quote, "Renting a cheaper apartment is less expensive. Then why don't you find a job near your apartment? Even if you deduct the bus fare, you could still earn an extra 10-odd kwai a day." It seemed that no matter what I asked, the girl would answer honestly, "You really work hard." Just as I finished speaking, the bus arrived, and the 2 doors slowly opened. Before the girl could finish what she was saying, I shook my head. Then I watched her walk onto the bus. She had just sat down when she realized she seemed to have wanted to say something, but the bus was already starting to move. She quickly stood up and anxiously tapped on the window. "I will definitely pay you back for the medicine money." Seeing the girl's voice get slightly louder when she was anxious, I found it amusing. I just smiled and waved my hand. Seeing the bus drive away, I casually hailed a taxi to go home. Looking at the hazy night, I slowly took out my phone. I suddenly saw Mo Yu-ching's name, which had been pinned at the top for several years. After a long hesitation, I finally unpinned it. I thought back to the person I used to be, sending good morning and good night every day, actively looking for various topics every day. Quote, "How pathetic." I arrived home close to 1 a.m. I walked into my room, opened the drawer, and was ready to throw away everything related to Mo Yu-ching. I suddenly saw a bracelet with only one wooden bead. I held it in my hand, hesitated for a while, and then placed it into the now empty drawer. The next day, as soon as I woke up, I picked up my phone. Out of instinct, I wanted to send a message. Only a second before hitting send, I snapped out of it and quickly slapped myself on the face. When I got back to the classroom, a junior student suddenly approached me. "Hello, senior. I'm Liang Ziru's friend. She's working part-time and can't easily ask for time off. She asked me to ask you when you're free. She wants to thank you in person." Hearing this, I was a little surprised. "Is she also at this school?" "Yes, we're both in the accounting major." "I see. I'll be free after class. Then I'll tell her to wait for you at the library entrance." For some reason, I felt like this girl was giving a mischievous smile, the kind of smile you see when a male and female lead get together in a TV drama. After saying that, the girl left. "Senior, remember, my name is Lin Miao Miao." I hadn't slept much all night, but when I returned to my seat, my sleepiness was almost completely gone. What a coincidence. Then why doesn't she live in the dorms? After class, just as I was about to go out to meet the girl, I was suddenly called over by the counselor. "Xiaolu, come help me sort out this roster." I had no choice but to stay. Half an hour later, it suddenly started pouring rain outside. It's been so long, and now it's raining. Liang Ziru probably won't wait for me anymore, right? Another half hour passed, and the rain outside had gradually lessened. I finally finished. I immediately rushed out and sprinted toward the library. I ran through the rain, dodging people, splashing water on the ground. When I got to the library entrance, I saw a girl standing there timidly. She seemed a little cold, occasionally shrinking into her jacket, but she still stood very close to the front. Occasionally, a gust of wind would blow, and the rain would hit her. Seeing this, I quickly walked up to her. The rain had already soaked part of her clothes, and the girl's ears were frozen red. Coupled with her delicate face, she looked both adorable and pitiful. My emotions were instantly complicated. I asked blankly, "Why didn't you leave?" "I was called by the counselor to help out, I'm sorry." Hearing a somewhat familiar voice, the girl finally raised her head. After recognizing me, the corner of her mouth seemed to curve slightly. "I had to wait for you. The rain started so suddenly, and I'm over an hour late. You should have just left." The girl looked at me very seriously. In her clear eyes, I could only see myself. "I promised you. And we agreed, didn't we?" The eye contact just now seemed to have used up all her courage. She quickly lowered her head again. How could she be so innocent? Why didn't you go inside? The rain is hitting you. I'm not foolish. I was afraid you wouldn't be able to find me, because you also came through the rain, so I didn't wait for the wrong person. I froze completely at that moment. Does someone really wait for me? In that instant, I felt something in my heart suddenly melt. Still saying you're not foolish? I feel like even if you were sold, you'd still count the money for me. The girl gently shook her head. You're not that kind of person. You were the only one who helped me back then. The girl's small mind whirled for a bit. Then she asked cautiously, Then let me buy you a meal? I was about to refuse, but then I saw the girl was deeply bowing her head, repeatedly pinching the corner of her clothes. I immediately smiled and said, Let's go. I'm going to make you pay for a good meal. The girl seemed much happier and nodded repeatedly. Since there were a lot of people around, I reached out and gently held the cuff of the girl's sleeve, and we slowly squeezed our way forward together. The girl looked at her sleeve being held. The gentle touch, just right, and not overstepping, filled her heart with a sense of security. Quote, The cafeteria is too crowded at this hour, and it's expensive and not very good. Let's eat out. Okay, let's eat whatever you want, the girl replied instantly. After saying that, she nervously lowered her head again. But I don't have an umbrella. It's okay, we'll have one soon. With that, I picked up my phone, opened the screen, and messaged, Boss, I'm by the library. Send 2 umbrellas ASAP. Acknowledge, please reply. Organization received, over. In just a few minutes, Zhang Chao delivered the umbrellas. Here you go, I'm leaving. When he saw the girl, he gave me a meaningful look. Why do I only have one? Jiang Chao looked at me unfazed. The other one suddenly broke. Watching Jiang Chao's receding back, I sighed helplessly, slowly opened the umbrella, and covered the girl who was standing there blankly. Make do with this. The girl lowered her head, nervously pinched her fingers, and then softly acknowledged, following silently beside me. The two of us walked quietly in the fine rain. The rain kept hitting the umbrella, gradually drowning out the girl's rapid heartbeat. This was the first time she had ever walked this close to a boy. After a while, I led the girl to an old street outside the school gate and stopped. Hearing my voice, the girl looked up. The first thing that caught her eye was a hot pot restaurant. She pursed her lips, but still said seriously, Let's go in. Not there, over here, I said, pointing to a noodle shop next door. This shop has been open for more than 20 years. I often came here with my dad when I was little. The girl followed me inside and silently scanned the code to pay. The total is 28 kawaii. Try it and see if it's good. The girl then lowered her head and ate small bites, occasionally sneaking a look at me before quickly averting her gaze. I looked at the timid girl in front of me, my thoughts a little complicated. Although I didn't know who had entered whose world, I felt that the girl brought a different kind of color to my life. I smiled and asked, Is it good? Although the girl ate well, her mouth was still puffed out like a hamster's. Her eyes inadvertently met mine, and she quickly lowered her head. Watching the girl with cheeks puffed like a hamster, the corner of my mouth involuntarily curved up. I rested my chin on my hand and quietly watched her. Since you're working part-time, why are you still trying to save money like this? The girl quickly swallowed the food in her mouth and slowly said, Because I need to save money for my mother's surgery. Seeing the girl's expression suddenly darken, I felt a pang of sympathy for this simple girl who waited for me in the rain. Is that Lin Meow Meow, your friend? When the girl nodded, I asked, Then, am I your friend? The girl suddenly froze. Although her eyes were hidden by her bangs, I could vaguely see them blinking. After a short while, the girl asked cautiously, Can I? She subtly raised her head, a hint of expectation in her heart. I was a bit confused. What are you talking about? Wasn't I asking you? Yes, thank you, the girl whispered. I only had her as a friend before. I didn't say anything more after hearing that. I just took out my phone and held it in front of the girl. Since we're friends, let's eat together sometime. The girl also took out her phone with both hands and scanned the code. As soon as I saw that we had added each other as friends, I asked in confusion, Why is your profile picture a bubble machine? Because someone gave it to me. I bought one of these when I was a kid, but I gave mine away. Suddenly I thought of the little girl who had lost her father, and then I looked at Liang Jiro, who was here saving money for her mother's treatment. This world is really not gentle at all. This scene was witnessed by Mo Yuqing from the doorway. Chen-Lu, that look should be for me. After standing there for a long time, Mo Yuqing finally rushed in. Didn't you like me? Then why are you eating with another girl? When I saw Mo Yuqing again, I didn't have the usual accelerated heartbeat. I laughed self-mockingly. You rejected me. I have no reason to keep being nice to you. The cold tone instantly stung her heart. This was the first time I had ever spoken to her like this. Mo Yuqing's vision suddenly blurred, and tears welled up in her eyes. Watching Mo Yuqing wipe her tears and leave, my heart felt complicated. I laughed self-mockingly. Am I stupid? I chased her for 7 years and got no response. Unexpectedly, the girl just shook her head seriously. Then she took out a fruit candy from her pocket. Here, I don't want you to be sad. The green apple-flavored candy slowly melted in my mouth, and it seemed to melt my heart as well. At this moment, the sun had completely driven away the dark clouds, and the sunlight shone freely on the two of us. After a long time, I recovered and took a deep breath of fresh air. Speaking of which, why are you living outside the dorms? I need to take care of my mother. I see. Where are you going next? I'll take you. No need. I'm going to work part-time. It's very far, the girl said, gently pinching the corner of her clothes, looking at my shadow. This young man who brought a ray of hope to her seemed content just to be able to look at him like this. I suddenly leaned closer and glanced at the girl. This made her lower her head even more, but the girl couldn't help but secretly peek out of the corner of her eye. Other than her mother, it had been too long since anyone had smiled and made eye contact with her like this. Seeing that the girl wasn't unhappy, I felt relieved. I can take you even if you're going to work. I don't have anything to do this afternoon. The girl was about to refuse, but then she saw me looking at her sternly, so she quickly nodded obediently. On the way, I deliberately stepped on small puddles, making a crackling sound. I stole a smile as I looked at the girl walking obediently in front of me. Liang Ziru, you really are foolish. No, I'm not foolish. After dropping off the girl, I returned to my dorm late at night. As I looked at the strange bubble machine profile picture, I hesitated about whether to say hello. Just then, I saw the girl had sent a message. Good evening. I paused. Just as I was thinking about what to say, the girl recalled the message. Those 2 simple words made the girl's heart beat faster. She rubbed her face in shame and annoyance, then burrowed into her blanket. Please don't look. Please don't reply to me. Please. The girl both wished he would ignore the whole thing and felt sad about the blank chat page between them. She also thought of the girl who was like a princess during the day. She was not in the same world as her at all. No wonder Chen-Lu liked her. After calming down, the girl quickly brought the foot bath water to her mother. The woman looked at her serious daughter, her eyes suddenly misting over with tears and her heart ached. Xiaoro, don't worry about curing Mom, okay? Mom is used to being paralyzed. No. The girl's voice started to choke, and her hands stopped moving. Tears dripped into the water basin, chilling the woman's heart, which was already warm from the water. She quickly stroked her daughter's head. The girl wiped her tears with the back of her hand, and then started massaging her mother's legs. But the woman noticed her daughter's burn again. Did you really accidentally burn yourself? Did anyone bully you? The girl lowered her head even more. Since she almost never lied, she didn't dare look at her mother and say, no. Did you buy those medicines? The girl shook her head. A friend bought it. Was it Meow Meow? She's a good child. No, it was Chen-Lu. The woman paused, then asked cautiously, both surprised and delighted. By the name, he's a boy. Are you too close? She desperately hoped her daughter could have her own feelings, her own life. He's a boy. He's very nice, just like Meow Meow. Late that night, the girl lay weakly in bed and curiously opened her phone's messages. Her lips instantly curled up. The phone showed a message. Get some rest. Remember to apply the medicine to your burn. The girl took a screenshot and stared at the message for a long time. A few more days passed quickly. I arrived at the drama club's meeting place. The girl said she was coming here to help last night, so she should be here. I then saw the girl. She was busy helping to set up various props for the performance, occasionally wiping the sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand. I sat on a chair and watched the girl, planning to see when the simple girl would notice me. After waiting for 10 minutes, the girl walked toward me. Liang Ziru, you're like an ox working non-stop. Don't you know how to take a break? Hearing this, the girl, who was originally hesitating about how to greet me, inexplicably relaxed. I'm not tired. A drop of sweat slid down the girl's delicate cheek and landed on her prominent chest. Seeing this, I complained, "You call this not tired?" As soon as I said it, I noticed the girl's eyes were slightly red. I looked at Lin Meow Meow, who looked a little guilty, and I was even more confused. I walked up to the girl, leaned in slightly, and looked into her eyes hidden beneath her hair. "What's wrong with you?" The girl shook her head vigorously. Nothing. However, I quickly thought of a way to respond. I sternly asked, "Aren't we friends? You won't even tell me this?" The girl's eyes suddenly welled up and her tone became very anxious. Because I spent too much money on lunch," halfway through her words. I gently pressed the girl onto the chair to sit down. Lin Meow Meow also started fanning her with her own fan. This made the girl feel at a loss for a moment, like a child who had done something wrong, and she started rambling. The girl said that at lunch with her drama club classmates, she was afraid that if she ate the cheapest dish, it would embarrass Lin Meow Meow. It was a baffling 30-odd yuan, but normally, even when eating with my mom, it wouldn't cost more than 5 yuan. I need to save money for my mom's treatment. I looked at the girl who was trying to hold back her tears, and Lin Meow Meow, whose eyes were also a little red. I scratched my head, feeling helpless. I turned to the girl, somewhat curious. "Why didn't I see you cry when you treated me to a meal?" "You're different," the girl said seriously, her hands clasped, head bowed. A small smile involuntarily played on my lips. I patted the girl's head and then walked towards the drama club members. "I'll go too," the girl started to say, but Lin Meow Meow stopped her. The girl was helping out for a friend in the student union. After I joined the drama club and settled the costs for props and costumes, I returned to the shade of the umbrella. The girl looked at the time and asked, "Should I go help out now?" No need. I sprawled in the chair and gently pulled her arm. Although the girl's arm was very thin, it was soft, and I instinctively gave it a light squeeze. This made the girl's face immediately turn red, like a small tomato. "We've already helped a lot. You'd be better off fanning me with that energy." I squinted my eyes and suddenly felt a cool breeze continuously blowing on my cheeks. I glanced over and saw that the girl was actually fanning me. I don't know how long I slept, but I slowly opened my eyes. The breeze was still blowing on my face. I checked the time. 2 hours had passed, but the girl next to me was still fanning me, while her other hand was holding her phone, seriously looking at English vocabulary words. Strands of hair on the girl's cheek were tightly stuck to her skin with sweat, and her clothing was sticking to her front. The sight made my heart heavy. I immediately stood up, gently pressed the girl back into the chair, and snatched the fan from her hand. The girl was startled. Before she could speak, I fanned her. "No need. I'm not hot. Just stay put. Otherwise, I might not be able to resist slapping myself." Seeing my unexpectedly serious expression, the girl didn't say anything more. She slowly closed her eyes, seemingly enjoying the moment. I rubbed my head, looking at the relaxed girl with a helpless expression, and asked with a slight headache, "Aren't you tired?" "You said you needed me," she replied. At that moment, I felt like my heart had almost stopped beating. Time passed minute by minute. After dropping the girl off, I finally returned to my dorm. In the evening, I stared blankly at the ceiling, recalling everything that had happened today. My phone suddenly rang. I picked it up and saw a message from Yang Zero. "Meow Meow said you will definitely come again tomorrow. Is that true?" "It depends on whether you go or not," I thought. Then I watched the typing indicator for a long time. "Then can you come a little earlier in the morning?" I blinked my eyes curiously, deciding to tease this simpleton a bit, to scare her off so I could get a good night's sleep. I replied, "You want to see me that badly?" This time I waited for a full 10 minutes for the typing indicator. Just as I was about to fall asleep, my phone rang again. The girl had sent just one word. I stared at the message in shock. What does that mean? The next morning, I was about to leave with dark circles under my eyes when Zhang Chao's shouting came from behind me. "Where are you going?" "I've been kidnapped by a fruit candy," I replied, opening the door and walking out. When I arrived at the drama club, I found that the girl hadn't arrived yet. I sat on a chair and waited silently. After another 15 minutes, I still didn't see her. I was starting to worry if something had happened to her since she said she would come early last night. Suddenly, I saw a somewhat frail figure not far away. anxiously walking towards me carrying a lunchbox. When the girl approached, she handed me the lunchbox. "I made some porridge for you. Do you want to try it?" Her voice was very small, and her two hands were restlessly fidgeting. When I saw the dark circles under the girl's eyes, I was stunned for a moment. I subconsciously took the box and asked, "Why did you make me porridge?" The girl breathed a sigh of relief when I didn't show the disgust she had expected. After a moment, she slowly spoke. "Your stomach is not good. You probably don't like eating breakfast, so I made you some porridge." Hearing this, I felt my defenses break down. Although I could never tolerate the taste of preserved eggs, I deliberately took a big bite. Suddenly, I felt like preserved eggs weren't so awful anymore. When the girl saw me wolfing down the porridge, the last stone in her heart finally dropped. The girl's father had died of a stomach illness, so she didn't want this boy's stomach to have any problems either. If he was too lazy to eat breakfast, she just needed to try a little harder. After all, they were good friends. The girl noticed my dark circles and tentatively asked, "Didn't you sleep well?" I carefully closed the lunchbox, yawned lazily, and said, "Guess whose fault that is?" The girl suddenly recalled the message she sent last night, her eyelids fluttering, and the scene before her eyes becoming hazy. "Can I go live on Mars? Why does today's Liang Zero have to be responsible for what yesterday's Liang Zero did?" Seeing the girl lower her head with no reaction, I called out, "Thank you." The girl's voice was soft and sweet, unusually cheerful. All my drowsiness and fatigue vanished with that single, "Thank you." After eating, I stretched contentedly, my gaze softly fixed on the girl in front of me. The girl also summoned her courage and looked up. Our eyes met for an instant. The girl then quickly looked away, wanting to escape. A little later, the girl couldn't bear being watched anymore. She quickly turned her face away, lowered her head, and asked timidly, "Why are you staring at me?" I rubbed my forehead, seemingly thinking about something. I said, "Don't move." "Oh." The girl's face was flushed crimson from being watched, her earlobes hot. Her clear, bright eyes were teary, and she looked like she was about to cry at any moment. "What are you doing?" Her heart was pounding, and her voice sounded like a stressed child's, laced with a sob. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her reaction. I forced myself to suppress the urge to tease her again and half-jokingly said, "I'm thinking about how to repay you." "Why do you need to repay me?" "Because I want to be very, very good friends with you. So the giving and receiving between us should be equal. That way it lasts a long time," I added thoughtfully, looking into the distance. The girl shyly pursed her lips, took out her phone to check the time, secretly glanced at the boy in front of her again, and then contentedly picked up the lunchbox. She gently waved. "I'm leaving now." I asked curiously, "Where are you going? Did you come all the way just to bring me breakfast?" "To hand out flyers," the girl said, sticking out her slender, fair index finger proudly. "I don't have class today, so I can earn an extra 100-odd kwai." My first thought was to offer to go with her, but I immediately dismissed the idea. The girl needed help, but it shouldn't be forced goodwill. That would only make this timid girl more self-conscious. Still, I felt a little disappointed. "Will you come back after you're done?" "I will." Watching the girl's figure disappear, I moodily walked toward the crowd of drama club members. In the evening, as dusk settled, I saw the girl return and pulled her to sit on the field. We watched the various people passing by and remained silent for a long time, only occasionally meeting each other's eyes unintentionally. I looked at the fiery clouds in the sky and slowly began, "You're really tired every day. Can you tell me about your family?" The girl hugged her knees and slowly began to recount her story. "My dad passed away when I was little. My mom got sick and her legs became paralyzed. That's why I want to work hard to earn money to support my mom and save up for her surgery." After finishing, the girl's eyes became increasingly blurry, as if behind a film of water. She was afraid of seeing pity in others' eyes, and she was afraid of recalling her own incompetence and weakness. At this moment, I suddenly said, "Young Zero, do you believe in miracles?" The girl clearly didn't react for a moment. Her expression became dejected again. "No, at least it can't happen to me, but I'm serious, it's possible," I said. "For example, someone suddenly bursts into your life and is even willing to bear all of this with you." After speaking, I slowly stood up, borrowed a guitar, sat back down next to the girl and said, "Listen carefully, I'm only playing this for you." Hearing this, the girl's heart seemed to skip a beat, and a strange joy filled her heart. In this instant, she was no longer the sole head of her household. She seemed to have transformed into a girl who needed to be cared for, could be cherished, and could enjoy youth and happiness. The girl listened with increasing fascination. She hadn't expected the boy to sing so well, and he was excellent at playing the guitar too. Soon, more and more people gathered around. The girl bowed her head lower and lower. I suddenly used the back of my hand to support her forehead, gently lifting her head. "I'm singing this just for you. You can't keep your head down." After a few songs, it was completely dark without us noticing. The onlookers had all dispersed. The girl still felt her cheeks burning. There had been so many people watching, and I kept stopping her from lowering her head. As the girl's thoughts wandered, I looked at the distant streetlights and said softly, "Liang Ziru, I hope you can grit your teeth and hold your head high until you have the courage to look people straight in the eye. I want to become like that." The girl's voice was so small that if I hadn't been listening carefully, I wouldn't have heard it. I hesitated for a moment before slowly reaching out my hand. Seeing that the girl didn't resist, I gently pushed aside her bangs and met her gaze, just like the night we first met. The gentle breeze rustled the loose hair by her temples, carrying the boy's words into her ears. "You must hold your head high and persevere. If you get tired halfway, look back. I'll be right behind you." Hearing this, the girl froze on the spot. For a moment, she didn't know what she was thinking, but her eyes suddenly turned red, and she fiercely pinched the corner of her clothes. Seeing the girl struggling not to let the tears fall, I panicked. "Hey, don't cry. Was my singing that bad?" the girl asked with a sob. "Is that true?" "Of course it is." I slowly extended my pinky finger and hooked it with the girl's. "I'll always be watching you, so you can't let me down." I checked the time and asked, "Are you going to your hot pot job now?" The girl nodded, her eyes showing a hint of lingering reluctance, but it vanished instantly. Quote, "I'll play one last song, and then I'll take you. I can go by myself." Before the girl could finish, I interrupted her. "Just listen carefully." After that night, even though the drama club no longer needed help, I still came here whenever I was free. Under my strong insistence, as a trade-off, I would eat the breakfast the girl brought me in the morning and then treat her to lunch. The girl couldn't refuse and had to accept. Although the girl didn't understand that giving should be mutual, she foolishly researched what I liked to eat. A week before the school anniversary performance, the Republican-era school uniforms custom-made by the drama club finally arrived. Lin Miao Miao excitedly brought a set of both the male and female uniforms, wanting to ask them to try them on for an experience. However, she saw the two of them sitting side by side. I was staring at my phone without moving, and the girl was leaning her head on my shoulder, sleeping peacefully. I just made a shushing gesture, turned to look at the girl who was sleeping soundly, and felt the faint scent coming from her hair. My heart hadn't calmed down yet. I thought, the girl works and studies non-stop every day. It seems like she's very tired. Lin Miao Miao didn't say anything more. She shook the clothes she was holding, indicating they were a gift for them. Seeing me nod, Lin Miao Miao put down the clothes and left. Half an hour later, I saw that it was almost the time for the girl's part-time job, so I moved my arm slightly and asked softly, "Shouldn't you be going to your job?" "Not today." The half-awake girl seemed to feel like her pillow wasn't soft enough and snuggled closer to my shoulder, gently rubbing her cheek. I involuntarily swallowed. Why? I've never seen her take a day off before. That restaurant doesn't need flyers anymore. I haven't found a new job yet. Then it's perfect to take a break today. I looked at the girl next to me, who was talking to me with her eyes closed, the corners of my mouth slightly curled. I strangely felt like I had her all to myself. The girl softly acknowledged. Half asleep like a kitten, she rubbed against my shoulder again, seeming very comfortable. The next second, she realized something was wrong and immediately jumped up. Whether it was from sleeping or from shyness, the girl's cheeks were very flushed. She quickly looked around, her eyes darting nervously, only daring not to look at me. The girl could only hear the violent thumping of her own heart. She felt her cheeks burning intensely. I just wanted to close my eyes and rest for a bit. How did I wake up leaning on Chenlu's shoulder? Looking at the girl's red, shy face, I chuckled softly. "You took advantage of me." I'm sorry." I frowned, not satisfied with her answer. "An apology is all, no responsibility?" "Good." The girl became even more flustered, her mind completely blank. Then what do you want me to do to take responsibility? I originally wanted to tease her a bit more, but I couldn't hold back my laughter. I could only smile and pull the flustered girl back to sit on the chair. I'm just messing with you. I saw you were so tired, so I didn't have the heart to wake you up. Do you want to sleep a little more? The girl lowered her head very deeply, still extremely embarrassed. No need. The girl still felt her actions were impolite. I'm sorry. Seeing this, I propped my chin in my hand and continued to joke. If you really feel bad about it, next time let me lean on your shoulder to sleep. That way we'll be even. No, that's not allowed. We are friends, we can't do that. But we're best friends. Still not allowed. I still said seriously, we're innocent, what are you afraid of? The girl was a little confused by my words, feeling like she was about to be tricked. She quickly shook her head. Even the most innocent of best friends can't do that. I put on a straight face and said, you owe me one, right? Isn't it normal for good friends to help each other out? But the girl was completely confused. She blinked her eyes and tentatively said, just once, okay? Good. The goal achieved, I didn't dwell on the matter anymore. The girl lowered her head, too shy to speak, sitting obediently beside me. Only then did she notice the strange uniform next to her. Seeing the girl curiously pick it up and look at it, I explained, Lin Meow Meow brought it for you. Do you want to try it on? The girl was stunned when she heard this, and then shook her head like a rattle drum. I continued to persuade her. We agreed before that you need to learn to be more confident. This is part of the plan. We'll give it back to her later. The girl lowered her head deeply, feeling her cheeks burn even hotter. Her thoughts were racing. I just agreed to let you lean on me to sleep. Why are you pushing your luck? Liang Zhiro, you have to learn to refuse him. The girl finally made up her mind. Then I suddenly leaned close to her ear and joked, if you're too shy, you can just let me see it. You don't want to make your good friend sad, do you? The sudden warmth in her ear made the girl's whole body tingle, and her slender waist went weak. The girl was adorably simple and didn't know how to dodge. After thinking for a long time, she nodded slightly as if possessed. The girl asked Lin Meow Meow on her phone where to change clothes, and then quietly led me to an empty classroom. Lin Meow Meow even specifically reminded her that it was a professional course classroom and had no surveillance cameras installed. I quietly followed the girl, feeling strangely like we were secretly doing something naughty together. When we reached the door, the girl adorably peeked around the corner, looking left and right. Only after confirming no one was there did she relax. You watch the door. I leaned against the wall and smiled at her. Don't worry. But the girl was still a little uneasy and added, you're not allowed to come in either. I immediately feigned a look of sudden realization. I really hadn't thought of that until you mentioned it. The girl immediately closed the door and didn't speak again. I just waited in the empty corridor. It cost her over 30 yuan for no reason, when usually, even eating with her mother, it wouldn't cost more than 5 yuan. I picked up my phone and checked the time. I was startled after seeing how much time had passed, and I asked worriedly, Liang Ziru? You didn't pass out in there, did you? Just then the girl slowly opened the door. Why were you staring at me? Looking at the shy girl in front of me, I suddenly felt a warmth in my nose and instinctively brushed aside her long bangs. The girl didn't resist, just looking like a lamb ready for slaughter. But when I regained my composure, I shook the phone in my hand. Let's take a picture. Since that night, we connected over a piece of candy. I never thought I would get closer to her, and I certainly never imagined the first time I saw her in a skirt would be so beautiful. No, don't. The girl was startled and instinctively retreated 2 steps until her back was against the wall. This is also part of the plan. The girl didn't speak. Looking like a frightened deer, she tightly gripped the corner of her clothes and looked at the camera with a wronged expression. Later at another time, good morning, what are you doing? Just got dressed. Getting ready for my part-time job. Found a new job? Yes, at the Guomao Mall. What time do you get off? I need to talk to you about something. I get off at 6. I'll pick you up then. Okay. After breakfast, I accompanied my sister to the Guomao Mall. My heart was full of questions as I felt her arm wrapped around mine. How could this girl, who claimed she couldn't even twist open a bottle cap, shop for so long without getting tired? Bro, I want fruit tea. I'll buy it for you. Bro, wait, I want to buy a new skirt. Buy it. Get me a necklace too, please. If you keep pushing it, I'm buying you a set of 5-3 exam practice books. Bro, you don't want your good friend to lose her job, do you? I suddenly remembered that my parents were looking for a tutor for my sister, so I had no choice but to agree. At 6 p.m., Liang Jiru, who had worked all day, finally got off work. The soreness in her neck was unbearable. However, she was filled with joy when she saw a cup of milk tea in her hand. It was then that she realized her phone was almost out of battery. She saw a place to rent a power bank ahead, but decided against it after thinking about it. It cost several yuan, after all. I was waiting in a coffee shop on the first floor of the mall. After a little while, Liang Ziru shyly walked in. Seeing her, I waved her over. The girl walked over and sat across from me, a little embarrassed. Why do you always arrive early? It's a habit. The girl nervously took out the milk tea. I bought you milk tea. I was a little surprised to hear it was for me, but then I paused. Didn't she buy one for herself? It took a long time for the girl to squeeze out a sentence. Her head bowed even lower. I finished mine on the way. Try it and see if you like it. I smiled softly and said, I like it very much. The girl finally breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the boy's smile. That's good. After all, this was the first time the girl had bought milk tea for a boy, and she was terribly nervous. Just then, my phone rang. I picked it up with displeasure and glanced at it. It was Lin Meow Meow. What is it? Lin Meow Meow's tone was anxious, saying that Liang Jiru was unreachable and her calls wouldn't go through. I looked at the girl beside me, who was looking curious, and smiled. She's right next to me. Hearing this, Lin Meow Meow relaxed and hung up the phone. The girl remained silent, full of guilt. Mentally planning what to buy, Lin Meow Meow. After a period of silence, she slowly looked up. What did you want to talk to me about? Quote, my parents are looking for a tutor for my sister recently. I wanted to ask if you were interested. I'm not suitable. Quote, it's okay. Why are you afraid to tutor my sister? Isn't it much better than going to a stranger's house? Seeing the girl shaking her head vigorously, I extended my index finger and gently pressed her forehead to stop her. I looked at her and asked, do you remember our agreement? The girl blinked her eyes. The firm look in front of her made her feel a lot more secure. After a few seconds, she finally made up her mind. Oh, I'll try. So the classes will be every weekend, 2 hours in the evening, 600 yuan. That's too expensive. Liang Jiru, are you stupid? I'm stupid. That's why I can't teach well. If you were truly stupid, you wouldn't have been admitted to this university. After saying that, I took out my phone and showed her the tutoring fees charged by others. Look, these are all from our university, and many parents are fighting to hire them. Seeing the girl still shaking her head, I continued, since you're so stupid, how about 250 yuan an hour? I suddenly felt strange. Why are the roles reversed? Is there a tutor who keeps lowering their own price? But the girl bit her lip and quietly looked up. How about a little cheaper? Would 200 work? Seeing that I didn't look angry, she continued to whisper. 200. Is that okay? Then how about free? Free is okay, but then I'll teach during the times when I don't have my part-time job. The girl's attitude was serious, completely missing the sarcasm. However, seeing me stare at her without speaking, her tone became timid. Don't be angry. After a short while, I slowly got up, expressionlessly moved to sit beside her, and started rubbing her head. The girl didn't resist, just tightly closed her eyes. Then, I took a deep breath, smiled helplessly. 200 it is, 200. But the girl recalled the lively girl she saw that afternoon and felt increasingly insecure. She felt she couldn't handle someone with that kind of personality. Are you teaching your own sister? What grade? Quote, yes, my sister, 11th grade. Hearing this, the girl was inexplicably happy and her mood brightened considerably. Why don't you teach her yourself? You're so good. These words filled me with pleasure, and my smile almost reached my ears. Am I that good? You're really good. You know so much, and you always look like you're handling everything effortlessly. After saying that, she secretly pursed her lips, leaving out the unspoken part. And you're very handsome too. That night, it wasn't just the boy who was mesmerized during their eye contact. I looked at her with a mischievous smile. I never thought you had such a good impression of me. The girl nodded gently. Actually, my impression is 100 times better than that. Just then, Lin Meow Meow called again. Where are you guys hanging out? Tell me about it. Hello? What did you say? The signal is bad here. I'm hanging up. I pressed hang up and put the phone aside. But a moment later, the phone rang again. I didn't even look at it and handed it to Liang Jiru. It's Lin Meow Meow. It's for you. I'm going to the restroom. The girl watched my retreating back and instinctively answered the call. Hello? The voice on the other end came through. Chen Lu, you didn't tell me you ran off and left her alone. But the voice paused mid-sentence. Who is this? The girl quickly covered her mouth and looked at the phone. The moment she realized it was Chen Lu's mother, she froze completely. Her heart was pounding, and she desperately wanted to hang up. But then she thought that would leave a bad impression, so she forced herself to endure the anxiety and put the phone back to her ear. Wang Xiaoxia, on the other end, heard her nervous breathing and asked in a softer tone, Who are you? The girl's mouth opened and closed, but she couldn't utter a single word for a long time. Wang Xiaoxia continued, Can you hear me? The girl finally squeezed out a sound from her throat. I can hear you. Wang Xiaoxia then spoke carefully, afraid of startling the child. Is Chen Lu not there? Hello, Auntie. My name is Liang Jiru. I'm Chen Lu's friend. He went to the restroom. The girl tightly gripped the corner of her clothes, feeling every second drag on. She still felt her heart pounding violently. Wang Xiaoxia chuckled, completely dropping her initial tone of questioning her son. You're Xiaolu's friend? That's a lovely name. Thank you, Auntie. The girl bowed her head over the table, her voice sinking to a whisper, and waited until the other party hung up the phone. Only then did she take a deep breath, feeling like she had finally come back to life. When I returned, I saw the girl's eyes were red, and she was looking up at me with a wronged expression. I was startled, quickly sat beside her, and asked, What's wrong? That phone call was from my mother. Hearing this, I paused. Although I had planned to introduce Liang Ziru to my parents when I asked her to be a tutor, the situation was now slightly different. However, after listening to the girl recount the conversation sentence by sentence, I was somewhat relieved. I then said, Then take 2 days off to prepare your lessons. Then I rested my chin on my hand, looking at the girl whose face was as red as a small tomato, and instructed her, I have a feeling you won't listen. You have to understand the priorities. In the future, 1 hour of tutoring will earn you a whole day's salary from your current job. Then I said with a very serious expression, Then you won't have to hand out flyers anymore. That's really too tiring. There's no need for the hot pot restaurant job either. That way, no one can bully you when I'm not around. The girl heard the seriousness and affection in my tone, especially that last sentence, which instantly broke through her defenses. The mist in front of her eyes couldn't be held back until her vision became completely blurred. For the first time in her life, she understood that having someone care about her affairs was such a happy thing. So happy that tears rolled down her cheeks, turning into splashes of water as they hit the floor. All her life, the girl had encountered countless people who bullied her, but the person who would worry about her being bullied and wanted to protect her had only just appeared. In the blink of an eye, it was the last day of the break, the day Liang Ziru was scheduled to give her first lesson. Our family sat on the sofa waiting beforehand. Finally, a gentle knock sounded at the door. I was just about to get up, but my sister had already run to the door. Hello! This startled the girl, who was unprepared. Before she could react, my sister had already linked arms with her and pulled her inside. Watching my sister's actions, I felt speechless. Mom, Dad, this is the friend I was talking about, Liang Ziru. Seeing the girl timidly hesitant to speak, my mother motioned, Come in and sit down quickly. She then gently held the girl's hand and sat her down on the sofa. This child has a lovely name and is very pretty. Hearing this, the girl became even more nervous. Her hands were neatly placed on her lap, and her head was bowed low. Then, she suddenly remembered something and, like a simpleton, recited her prepared lines. Hello, Auntie. Hello, Uncle. My name is Liang Ziru. My mother was momentarily stunned, then smiled and stroked the girl's head, her eyes full of indulgence. Ziru, are you thirsty? Come eat some watermelon. If you don't like it, we have other things. Do you want to stay for dinner tonight? Auntie's cooking is quite delicious. My mother was so enthusiastic that the girl quickly became overwhelmed. She gave me a pitiful look. Seeing this, I quickly changed the subject. She's here to be a tutor. If you keep chatting, that time counts, and you have to pay her. But the girl quickly waved her hand in refusal. No need to count. You talk too much. Chen Guanglen, look at your son. My mother softly scolded me, but her opinion of the girl rose even higher in her heart. My father then also shirked responsibility. Your son? Seeing me being tossed around like a hot potato, my sister just giggled on the side. The girl listened to the happy laughter, feeling a slight pang of sadness. It had been far too long since she had experienced this kind of joy since her father passed away. I immediately sensed the girl's thoughts. I picked up a piece of watermelon with a toothpick and handed it to her, distracting her. Then I turned to my mother and said, Mom, if you keep talking, Chenmo will have to go to school. My mother then had my sister take the girl into the room. I lazily lay down on the sofa, finally letting out a sigh of relief as I looked at the closed door of my sister's room. Just then, my mother's voice, full of sympathy, came over. This child. Is her family not well off? It's rare for a girl her age to have calluses on her hands. I didn't hide anything and truthfully explained the girl's family situation. When she heard that the girl worked multiple part-time jobs every day and only dared to order the cheapest lunch, Wang Xiaoxia's eyes became red involuntarily. Wiping away her tears, she said, Chen Lu, if you dare to bully her, I'll disown you. We didn't disturb them throughout the entire lesson. 2 hours quickly passed. The room door slowly opened. I looked up and saw my sister shamelessly clinging to the girl's arm. Sister, if I had met you earlier, my English would have been good long ago. She said it loudly, clearly audible in the living room. Seeing my parents' satisfied smiles, I also smiled to myself. Although I didn't know how Liang Ziru actually taught, just looking at my sister's reaction told me the necklace wasn't bought in vain. Afterward, seeing the girl repeatedly decline, Wang Xiaoxia didn't insist on keeping her for dinner and waved me over to take her home. But seeing my sister still attached to the girl, I couldn't help but ask, what's going on? When did you two get so close? My sister just rolled her eyes at me. None of your business! After saying that, she hugged the girl reluctantly. Sister, if my brother threatens you, just blink. I'll definitely save you. No, he's very kind to me. I tapped my sister's forehead in annoyance and led the girl out the door. The girl was holding her canvas bag, her expression somewhat complex. Seeing the change in her expression, I asked, what's wrong? I thought for a long time yesterday, but I couldn't figure out what to bring. It's my first time here, and I didn't bring anything. Seeing this, I couldn't help but smile. It doesn't matter. You're here to be a tutor after all. If you brought something, wouldn't it look like a bride visiting her in-laws? Then I leaned closer to the girl, looking her in the eyes. So you want to marry into my family that badly? The girl quickly turned her face away, her breathing becoming rapid. That's not what I meant. Was my sister obedient? The girl whispered with her bag on her back. No, she was quite serious. She just wanted to chat with me for a while before she'd study. Chat about what? She told me not to tell you. Hearing this, I was a little displeased. I looked at the girl with a straight face. Are we still best friends? The girl nodded slightly. I asked with a serious expression. So, are you going to tell me or not? Don't be angry, I'll tell you. The girl's tone became anxious and she was about to spill everything. We? Before the girl could finish, I put my index finger to her moist lips. It's okay, I'm happy that you're willing to tell me. As for what you talked about, that's a secret between the two of you. Then I chuckled, my tone very gentle. You don't have to say anything you don't want to. But the girl just blinked, a little confused. But I'm willing to tell you everything. Later, when we arrived at the parking space, at my strong insistence, the girl obediently sat in the passenger seat. I looked after her like a child, pulling the seatbelt over and buckling her in. The girl remained motionless, afraid of accidentally touching me. She would occasionally steal a glance at me. I felt a strange, inexplicable feeling. As I was backing out the car, I smiled at Liang Ziru beside me. Why do you look so nervous? Do you look down on my driving skills? The next moment, I froze. Even though the girl was wearing a very loose t-shirt, her graceful figure was tightly outlined by the seatbelt. The girl adjusted her sitting posture with some embarrassment, trying to make it less obvious. Seeing this, I cleared my throat. Tell me your location. I'll navigate to the supermarket near my house. I need to buy some groceries. About half an hour later, the car stopped in front of a supermarket. Looking at the girl unbuckling her seatbelt, my mood was complicated. The drive took this long. I wonder how long this simpleton rode the bus to get here. It was a blunder. I should have tricked her into letting me pick her up. We walked into the supermarket together. The girl carried the shopping basket, looking this way and that, and I silently followed beside her. I suddenly had a feeling that we were living life together. What do you want to buy? The girl thought for a moment. Let's buy some bitter melon first. I continued to shamelessly roleplay. I don't like bitter melon. The simpleton girl blinked and looked at me. What do you want to eat? I was just teasing you. I'm not eating at your house. The girl finally realized and turned her face away to continue shopping. Then, the girl picked out a fish, planning to improve their meals. For every dish she picked, I would ask her how she planned to cook it. The girl wasn't annoyed at all, and patiently answered. Just like that, we shopped for a long time, me asking and her answering. I suddenly felt a gentle nudge on my shoulder. I turned my head curiously and saw the girl holding a bottle of Pepsi, extending it to me. I was a little surprised. I didn't expect her to remember that I like soda, and specifically Pepsi. Thank you. The girl's tone was still timid, her head lowered. I got you the room temperature one. It's not good for your stomach. Can you drink less cold stuff? I'll listen to you. After leaving the supermarket, the two of us chatted as we walked into a dark alley. The surrounding concrete jungle blocked most of the sunlight. After walking a bit further, we arrived at a very old apartment building. The girl rented a place on the first floor. Just as I was curiously looking around, I suddenly heard someone shouting loudly. Isn't there a daughter too? Call her back to pack her things. Once you're done packing, get out of here. When we walked in, we saw a plump, middle-aged woman yelling. The woman in the wheelchair looked haggard, her expression full of helplessness. She couldn't even stand up to argue. Mom! The girl rushed forward and held her mother's hand, her voice trembling. The woman felt the familiar touch and came back to her senses, realizing it was her daughter. Seeing the unfamiliar boy standing next to her, she was briefly stunned but still spoke. The landlady wants us to move out quickly. The middle-aged woman, seeing the two young people, didn't back down. Why are you acting so pitiful? This is my apartment to begin with. The woman argued helplessly, but the lease hasn't expired yet. We haven't prepared for it. I quietly listened to them for a few sentences, then frowned and asked, Do you have the contract? Hearing this, the girl seemed to remember something. Yes, we do. Get it, I said while quietly pushing the wheelchair to the shade beside us. The middle-aged woman's tone was still aggressive. What does this have to do with you? I just looked at her calmly. She's my mother-in-law. What do you think it has to do with me? Hearing this, the middle-aged woman was momentarily speechless. Seeing me carrying a bag of groceries, she believed me even more. The girl quickly ran out of the room. I took the contract and quickly scanned it. The lease term was still for more than half a year. Judging by the contract template, they must have gone through a real estate agent. The landlady likely found a tenant willing to pay more and thought the mother and daughter were easy to bully, which is why she caused this trouble. I couldn't bear to think what this simpleton girl would do if she encountered this without me. Then I looked at the contract and said expressionlessly, You can move out, but pay the penalty for breach of contract. It says here it's 30% of the contract price. The middle-aged woman's face contorted. What do you, a young child, know? I just smiled calmly. Auntie happens to be studying this. You can bully them for not understanding, but playing this game in front of me won't work. I suggest you seriously consider it. Seeing her frozen there, I changed my sharp tone to a gentler one. We understand that you need money and want to rent it out to someone who will pay more. But it's not easy for anyone. Wouldn't it be better if we were considerate of each other? Otherwise, what's the point of meeting in court? Once the lease is up, you're moving out. I won't rent it to you two no matter who I rent it to. The wealthy woman left her final harsh words and quickly turned and left. The girl recalled my words and felt a sense of familiarity. It was just like that night when Chen Lu helped her out, using a mix of softness and hardness. He's really amazing. No wonder I keep getting tricked by him, even being convinced to wear that kind of dress. Wait a minute, did he just call her mother-in-law? The girl's face instantly flushed to the roots of her ears. She lowered her head, too embarrassed to speak, but still forced out a, thank you. I looked at Xiao Kunfeng and smiled. Auntie, are you okay? Next time we encounter people like this, we absolutely cannot back down. The woman looked at the boy in front of her with great gratitude. I'm fine, thank you so much, really. It was impossible not to feel helpless and lost when a middle-aged woman in a wheelchair, with her daughter, encountered this situation in a strange city. It's what I should do. Liang Jiro also helps me out often. Just then, Xiao Kunfeng tentatively asked, Is your name Chen Lu? I was suddenly surprised. Auntie, do you know me? Xiao Kunfang's wrinkled eyes smiled. I often hear my daughter mention you. You truly are a good child. Good? My mom wants to sweep me out of the house every day. I handed the shopping bag to the girl beside me and said seriously, I'm going now. Call me immediately if anything else happens, and I'll come right away. The girl looked up at me, the words to ask me to stay caught in her throat. She could only watch my back, anxiously extending one hand. Seeing her daughter's hesitation, Xiao Kunfang spoke up. Stay for a meal. Taste Ziru's cooking. I turned my head and happened to see the girl's outstretched hand. I was slightly taken aback, then smiled gently. Okay. The mother and daughter were happy and a little nervous when I agreed. After all, this was the first boy the girl had brought home, and their home was so simple. The girl opened the door, and I actively pushed the wheelchair into the room. The first-floor apartment didn't have good lighting. The interior was dim and the space was very cramped. From the entrance, one could see the kitchen across the small living room, and next to it was the only bedroom. Despite this, the girl kept everything spotlessly clean. Xiao Kunfang quickly greeted me, a little flustered. Chen Lu, sit down quickly. We don't have air conditioning at home. I'm so sorry you have to endure this. In her eyes, children from the big city were all born with a silver spoon. I wasn't fussy at all. I pulled over a stool and sat down next to Xiao Kunfang, showing no signs of disgust. Auntie, don't say that. I even went back to my hometown with my dad to harvest corn. What's there to endure? Then, I got up to help the girl move the electric fan over. After that, I sat and chatted with Xiao Kunfang. The girl glanced at me secretly, then dove into the kitchen to busy herself. Her face was still hot and hadn't cooled down yet. What, mother-in-law? Such nonsense. However, the girl's heart warmed up again as she remembered my handsome, brave appearance when I stood up for them earlier. She washed the vegetables even more meticulously. Xiao Kunfang asked curiously, Are you and Ziru in the same class? I answered seriously. Strictly speaking, I'm her senior, I'm a junior now. As we chatted, Xiao Kunfang felt thirsty and tried to push her wheelchair to reach the glass of water on the table. But before she could move, I handed the glass to her, then continued the conversation as if nothing had happened. Xiao Kunfang looked at her daughter and smiled wryly. Ziru really has made you work hard to take care of her. This girl is sometimes so foolish and stubborn. She sighed deeply and took a photo from the drawer. In the yellowed photo, a little girl was smiling brightly, looking forward to facing the world with joy and curiosity. Actually, this child was very lively when she was little. After her father left and I got sick, she suddenly became a different person. I remained silent for a while, then slowly said, She'll get through it. Suddenly, I noticed a bracelet in the drawer. Seeing that it was very similar to the one at my own house, I curiously took it out to examine it. Xiao Kunfang proudly said she made it herself when she was little. Really? Her hands are so skillful. So that was popular back then. Liang Ziru has one too. I smiled, dismissing my momentary thought that the world was that small. Then I looked up at the kitchen. I felt a little bad doing nothing, so I said, Auntie, please rest. I'll go help. But Xiao Kunfang quickly refused. You're a guest. How can I let you do that? I'm not only coming this one time. Once I come more often, I won't be a guest anymore. I put the stool back in its place. Auntie, if you don't let me help, it means you don't welcome me back in the future. Hearing this, Xiao Kunfang couldn't push back anymore and just smiled as she watched me walk towards the kitchen. As soon as I entered, it felt like a steam room. The small kitchen was also cramped, and the stuffiness almost took my breath away. The girl was wearing an apron and seriously chopping vegetables, completely unaware of anyone approaching. As everyone knows, girls wearing aprons have a special charm. I was a little lost in thought as I looked at the girl's delicate profile. It felt like living life together. Just like earlier when she was in the passenger seat and we bought groceries together. It made me inexplicably want to marry her and bring her home. I walked behind the girl and asked, What are you doing? The girl was startled and jerked backward, landing right in my arms. I froze for a moment, feeling the girl in my arms was soft and surely very comfortable to hold. Although the girl was a little sweaty and a few strands of hair were even stuck to her cheek, she still had a lovely body scent. She even looked a little alluring. Unfortunately, the pleasant moment was short-lived. The girl quickly regained her senses and stood up straight, blushing as she adjusted her bangs. I just smiled and said, You took advantage of me again. You owe me one next time. Unexpectedly, the girl suddenly turned her head and looked straight at me, her eyes misty. "You don't keep your promises," she said with a pained voice. This made me curious. When did I not keep my promise? Before, I only leaned on you to sleep for a little while, and you said you'd return the favor, but you just let me sleep for an entire afternoon. So, are you willing or not? The girl turned back and continued chopping the cabbage. After a long silence, she finally squeezed out a sentence. If I hadn't been listening carefully, I would have truly missed it. I am willing. I suddenly felt my heart racing. Why does this simpleton always deliver such a critical hit? I had to help her wash vegetables to distract myself. After a while, the girl spoke again. Thank you for this time, really. Quote, this is nothing. I didn't take it seriously and proceeded to find a plate to put the washed vegetables on. Unexpectedly, the girl's voice suddenly started to tremble with a hint of a sob. Not just this time. Thank you for last time too. Seeing this, I sighed and said seriously, I suggest you thank me less. The girl looked up at me, her clear and beautiful eyes full of confusion. Why? Because no matter how many times, I will stand up and help you. After saying that, I showed a gentle smile. If you thank me every time, you'll be exhausted. The girl secretly sniffled. Her vision was too blurry to chop vegetables. You said you don't like fish before, so I didn't make any. Is there anything you want to eat? I'll make it for you. You already washed the cabbage, right? I want to eat hand-shredded cabbage. What else? Cola chicken wings. The girl wiped her hands with her apron and said, I'll go buy chicken wings for you. But I quickly stepped forward and held her back. I was just kidding. I love anything you cook. The girl then looked up and quietly met my eyes. Really? Seeing me nod, the girl obediently returned to the cutting board and asked curiously, why can you always make people run away? Because people are despicable. They'll keep bullying you if they think you're easy to bully. The girl listened very seriously, planning to learn from it. But she noticed that I only spoke half a sentence, and then stopped. As she was wondering, she found that I had leaned close to her ear and whispered, you don't need to think about these things. You have me. Long afterward, the girl still wondered if she was dreaming. I really don't want to wake up, not at all. Soon, several dishes were placed on the table. At my strong request, the girl still made a fish soup. There was a bowl of fish soup, a plate of hand-shredded cabbage, and braised eggplant, which I had made myself. This dinner was already very hearty for the girl. The three of us sat around the small dining table, but the girl felt increasingly nervous. She had never imagined that she would eat dinner with her mother and another boy. The girl kept her head down, afraid her mother would ask her something. The accidental intimate contact in the kitchen earlier still made her cheeks flush red. I pushed the dish I made toward Xiao Kunfang. Auntie, try the one I made. You child? Xiao Kunfang muttered, but a very happy smile appeared on her face. She picked up a piece, tasted it, and immediately nodded. The girl also secretly took a bite, and then quickly another. However, the girl noticed that I had only poured 2 spoonfuls of fish soup onto my rice. You really dislike fish? I don't like it. Why? It has bones. Then do you like boneless fish? I don't like that either. The girl was confused and couldn't help but ask, why? Xiao Kunfang watched the two of us chatting back and forth, a smile in the corner of her eyes. She secretly sighed. This is the life my daughter should have at this age. I felt like I was eating very fast, but my bowl kept being refilled with food. I looked up and saw the girl putting food into my bowl. The girl noticed my gaze, froze for a moment, then continued adding food as if nothing happened. I said somewhat helplessly, you should eat too. She hadn't touched her own bowl of rice for a long time, but the girl was as stubborn as a calf at this point. He was constantly putting food in my bowl and pouring soup. Every time I tried to refuse, would see the girl's blinking eyes and my heart would immediately soften. Something is wrong. Is this simpleton starting to find my weakness? After a while, I really couldn't eat anymore, so I quickly stopped the girl's pig-feeding behavior. You don't like the dishes I made? I accidentally blurted out. I like them. I wish I could eat them every day. Hearing this, Xiao Kunfang also joked, you can let her cook for you every day in the future. This made the girl very anxious. After dinner, washing the dishes and chatting for a while, I saw that it was almost 9 p.m. I quickly got up to leave before my own mother could call. But the girl followed me out to send me off and wouldn't be chased away. The alley, which was pitch black in the early evening, was now lit up by streetlights. The two of us walked side by side, very slowly. Neither of us spoke. Finally, the girl pursed her lips and asked, after making up her mind, "Are you unhappy?" I looked at the girl beside me, feigning surprise. "You can tell that? Do you want to eat candy?" I took the fruit chew from the girl's hand and put it in my mouth, enjoying the sweet, refreshing scent. "I'm not unhappy. I'm just not ready to grow up yet." "Don't worry, you're so capable and what?" I turned my head to look at the girl. "And I'll be with you." The words fell, and there was silence again. The girl felt a little strange. "Why do you always walk a little slower than me? That way you're always in my sight. It's easier to deal with any sudden situations." Then I stopped and said, "This is far enough. Go back quickly." The girl only reluctantly turned and left after the boy's silhouette under the street lamp completely disappeared. The next day, I continued to enjoy the breakfast the girl brought me. I suddenly noticed that we were seeing each other more and more often, and it felt pretty good. After saying goodbye to the girl in the evening, I returned to the dorm and saw Jiang Chao lying on his chair, looking utterly defeated. "What's wrong with him?" My roommate sighed and said his dad forced him to change his college major. Hearing this, I raised an eyebrow and said, "Boss, what was your original dream?" "I wanted to start a business and make games." I thought for a moment and continued. "There's a type of game that doesn't require much investment or a large workload. As long as you're confident you can make it fun, that's enough." "What is it?" I opened a famous game platform and pointed to the computer screen. "Roguelike." Jiang Chao's eyes suddenly widened. The next moment, he pushed the door open and rushed out, leaving only one sentence behind. "I'm going to take the first step." Afterward, I lay on my bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. A law student starting a business to make games is absolutely explosive, but this also gave me a sign that it would soon be my turn to make a choice in life. Suddenly, the girl's simpleton words echoed in my ears, "I'll be with you." I slowly picked up my phone and sent a message to the girl. "What are you doing?" This time, the girl didn't reply instantly as usual. Just then, I received a message from Mu Yuqing. A few days ago, my mom told me she was coming back from abroad, but I found out she lied when I got home. I was so sad then. I saw the message but didn't reply. After half an hour, Mu Yuqing sent another message. "If you don't answer me, I'm gonna tell your mom." After a long time, I slowly sent a message. "I'm genuinely tired. I want to forget about you." I kept staring at my phone in a daze and finally received a message from Liang Jiru. "Sorry, I forgot to tell you just now. I feel like you might be getting tired of porridge, so I made you some steamed buns. If you get tired of something, tell me and I'll change it for you, but you can't skip breakfast." Seeing this, I smiled with relief and gently tapped the screen to reply, "Okay." Early the next morning, I picked up my phone and greeted Liang Jiru with a "good morning," and also asked what filling the steamed buns had. I suddenly noticed something new. Mu Yuqing had also sent me a "good morning." I decided to pretend I hadn't seen it. Just then, Jiang Chao interrupted my thoughts. "Do you want to start a business with me?" Looking at Jiang Chao's determined gaze, I still refused. "I'll think about it." Afterward, I went to the sports field to watch the drama club's final rehearsal. When I arrived, Liang Ziolo had been waiting there for a long time. This surprised me. It felt like the first time I had been this late. When the girl saw me, she quickly ran to me and handed me the breakfast she had brought. Then, I ate breakfast while accompanying the girl to watch the drama club's rehearsal. The girl was close beside me, head lowered. I was quietly pondering what Jiang Chao had told me when I suddenly said, "Liang Ziru." The girl immediately turned her head to look at me. She didn't ask what I was going to do, and patiently prepared to listen. I asked in a deep voice, "Do I actually have quite a few merits?" The girl nodded slightly and whispered, "A lot." Although the girl didn't dare to continue looking at me, her tone was extremely serious. Hearing this, I couldn't help but curve the corner of my mouth. My mood immediately brightened considerably. Changing my mind, I looked at her with a mischievous smile. "Right, today is Saturday. Teacher Liang, it's time for you to go tutor." The title Teacher Liang felt a little odd to the girl, but she couldn't pinpoint what was wrong. Unable to figure it out, she just nodded slightly. "I'll drive you there, and then I'll take you home afterward." As I spoke, I sent a message to Zhang Chao, borrowing his Mercedes-Benz E300. The message was sent and immediately received an okay reply. The girl quickly started to say, "No need for the trouble, I'll go myself." However, she saw my indifferent expression, and the words caught in her throat. She figured that even if she didn't agree, I would eventually trick her into it one way or another, so it was better to just give in from the start. I showed a contented smile. That's more like it. Experts recommend that you resist less. Otherwise, the more you resist, the more excited I get. The girl shivered violently, her ears flushed red, and she looked at me with some grievance. "You're bullying me again. Who told you to be bullied and then foolishly not talk back? As long as you don't learn how, I'll keep bullying you." The girl turned her head and feigned understanding. "Is that so?" But she thought to herself, "I absolutely won't learn to talk back. As long as I don't, I can stay by his side forever." I narrowed my eyes slightly, feeling that the task of getting the girl to look up was long and arduous. The next day, the school anniversary celebration arrived as scheduled. The area in front of the huge stage was packed with people. Liang Ziru sat quietly beside me, her gaze drawn to the stage and the colored lights. At this moment, I leaned close to her ear and asked, "Do you think it's beautiful? You've never seen anything like this before." I smiled unconsciously, looking at her serious, curious, and adorable expression. But then I thought that this simpleton hadn't seen much of the world, and I felt a pang of heartache. A few minutes later, Liang Ziru leaned over. She took a bottle of mineral water from her canvas bag, unscrewed the cap, and asked very gently, "Are you thirsty?" "I brought you water." Just as I took the bottle, it was almost knocked over by Zhang Chao in the next second. I cursed and turned to look at Zhang Chao, who was still looking at the stage, focused on Mu Yuqing. Both Liang Ziru and I were stunned when we heard her name. The girl recovered and didn't say anything, just quietly put the cap back on for me, then took out a tissue and wiped the water off my clothes. My gaze quickly returned to Liang Ziru. Seeing her, I whispered, "Thank you." Liang Ziru looked up and saw my gentle smile. She immediately felt much calmer, even though she didn't know why she had felt like there was a stone blocking her heart just now. At this point, the surrounding audience became more and more focused, and the atmosphere reached a climax with Mu Yuqing's dance steps. Soon, it was the interview segment at the end of the show. The female host smiled and said, "Yuqing, is there anything you'd like to say?" Mu Yuqing took the microphone, nodded slightly, and said, "First, thank you all for your support. And then, I want to thank Chen Lu. Thank you for helping me so much. Thank you for always being by my side all these years. I only now realize I was wrong. I got so used to your kindness that I took it for granted. I'm sorry for ignoring your efforts. I truly apologize. I hope to see you by my side at the graduation ceremony. Can you?" After speaking, she bowed deeply to the audience. The entire venue first fell into a deathly silence, and then erupted in noise again. "Who is Chen Lu? Don't sleep too soundly tonight. That's my goddess! Which class is Chen Lu in? It's over, let's go." On the way, I drove Liang Ziru back. We spoke very little the whole way. I occasionally looked at the depressed girl. When we arrived at the alley, the girl slowly unbuckled her seatbelt and waved at me. "I'm going. Say hello to Auntie for me." "I won't get out this time." The girl blinked, then nodded softly. Afterward, the girl walked alone in the dimly lit alley. The old streetlights above flickered, and her slightly frail figure looked very lonely. The girl walked slowly, with her head bowed, clutching her canvas bag. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't understand why she felt so sad. Tears kept streaming down her face. She didn't know why, but she, who had always been alone, suddenly couldn't be without that boy. The girl walked, wiping her tears. Her steps were very, very slow. She had to finish crying outside. She couldn't take her tears home. Her mother would worry. "Liang Ziru." Just then, a voice suddenly broke the imagined quiet. She looked up. "I've been behind you the whole time." The next noon, I was suddenly woken up by the ringing of my phone. I picked it up and saw that it was Liang Ziru. The girl was puffing out her cheeks angrily because I hadn't eaten breakfast, but her tone was still incredibly gentle. Meow Meow asked if we want to go to dinner tonight. She said it's the drama club celebration party. However, I knew she was extremely shy and didn't know how to refuse. After thinking for a moment, I yawned and asked, "Do you want to go?" Seeing the girl remain silent, I patiently explained, "Don't be afraid to refuse. We're not the main characters of this meal. It's fine whether we go or not." The girl paused, then slowly spoke. No. The environment full of strangers genuinely made her feel suffocated. That's right, if you don't want to do something, say it directly. Just as I was about to hang up, the girl's tone suddenly became urgent. "Wait, there's one more thing!" The girl took a few deep breaths, finally summoning up her courage. "I'm inviting you to dinner." Her voice was very quiet, even trembling a little, but her tone was firm. "After all, I still haven't thanked you for helping me find a job." By the time I recovered, I didn't notice the smile on my face. This simpleton, who only dared to eat shredded potatoes every day, was actually inviting me to dinner. Then the girl quietly added, "Just you." I was stunned. I didn't expect the girl to learn so quickly. After we agreed on a time to meet in the afternoon, I was about to go back to sleep when Liang Ziru called again. Meow Meow said she postponed the drama club's celebration party until tomorrow. She wants to treat just the two of us tonight. After that, the three of us agreed to go out for hot pot that evening. Since Lin Meow Meow had her own things to do, I went to the library to find Liang Ziru, planning to linger there until dinner time. At this moment, Liang Ziru was preparing for her English CET 6 exam. Her arms rested neatly on the smooth table. It looked fair and tender, making me want to touch it. I suddenly poked her arm with a pen. With a light press, a white mark would be left. I watched the mark slowly disappear. "Classmate Liang Ziru, can I poke your cheek? You don't want your good friend to be sad, right?" The girl struggled a bit, but then slowly leaned closer. At 1 o'clock that evening, the two of us entered a hot pot restaurant. As soon as we entered, we saw Lin Meow Meow waving at us. After we sat down, Lin Meow Meow pushed the menu toward Liang Ziru. "Order whatever you like. After all, you've helped me a lot." She then hooked her arm through Liang Ziru's. "Hurry up and see what you want to eat. Chen Lu and I will listen to you completely today." Seeing Liang Ziru nervously studying the menu, I felt a pang of sympathy. Although this simpleton worked part-time at a hot pot restaurant, she definitely wouldn't be willing to spend her own money to eat here. After a while, Lin Meow Meow couldn't wait any longer and asked, "Haven't you finished ordering yet? Just order whatever you want to eat." Liang Ziru intertwined her index fingers, a little shy. I'm thinking about what you and Chen Lu like to eat." Seeing this, I poked Liang Ziru's cheek with the chopstick and chuckled softly. "I like to eat what you like to eat. Hurry up and order or I'll starve to death." After another moment, this simpleton finally finished ordering. During the meal, the three of us chatted casually, with only Liang Ziru speaking less. Most of the time, she was secretly putting meat and vegetables in my bowl, occasionally adding a little for Lin Meow Meow. I felt like the small bowl in front of me was never empty. No matter how fast I ate, there was always new food in it. After a short while, I couldn't help but say, "How much have you eaten yourself? I see you've only been focusing on putting food in my bowl." Then I picked up a clean chopstick and repeatedly poked Liang Ziru's cheek. The poking made the girl involuntarily close her eyes. But even so, she didn't know to hide from me. I've eaten a lot, but I still didn't believe her and continued to tease the girl. Her cheeks were soft, her skin was nice, and it was really fun to poke. She also looked so fresh and tender. I wondered what it would feel like to kiss her. Soon, I frowned. I asked in a deep voice, "Is your fringe longer than that night?" It was already long back then. "Why are you growing it even longer?" "It's easier to be bullied." After saying that, she bowed her head deeply. Seeing this, I gently held her forehead with the chopstick, reminding her to look up. "It won't happen again. I told you I'm here." Liang Ziru's eyes suddenly narrowed slightly, becoming a little moist. Her entire heart trembled. It was already past 8 p.m. when we came out. I exhaled and said to Lin Meow Meow, "Are you going back alone? Or are you going to come with me to drop off Liang Ziru first?" Lin Meow Meow smiled, shook her head and said she would just take a taxi back herself. Just as I was walking toward the parking lot with Liang Ziru, Lin Meow Meow waved at me again. "Come here. I want to talk to you about something." I found it a little strange, but walked over with a puzzled expression. Lin Meow Meow put on a rare, serious expression. "Think carefully. I'm going to tell you that she can't live without you anymore. That simple girl's heart is too small. so small that it might only hold one man in her lifetime. There's a light in her eyes when she secretly looks at you. Hearing this, the corners of my mouth suddenly curled up. Don't worry, I will never leave her. I waved and walked back to Liang Jiru. When we got into the car, I pulled out the seatbelt and slowly fastened it for the girl. Suddenly, Liang Zero asked, Meow Meow, did she have something to talk about? I smiled and told her the truth. She told me not to leave you. The girl's mind instantly went blank, and she just bowed her head in shame. After a while, the girl's voice trembled as she asked another question. Will you leave me? I was glad I had been listening intently to her speech, or I might not have heard it. Will you drive me away? No, I couldn't possibly drive you away. Then I won't leave you. A few minutes later, Liang Ziru looked at the street outside the window and seemed to realize that something was wrong. This road is different from the one to my house. I laughed out loud. Of course it's different. This isn't the way to your house. How can you be so simple? If I really sold you, you wouldn't even notice, would you? Where are you taking me? To the mall to buy you some clothes. The girl who wasn't panicking before now started to panic. Why are you buying me clothes? You wear the same few white t-shirts in rotation every day. We need to change clothes. It's not like we are some kind of cartoon or a foreign story with AI-generated image uploaded to a YouTube channel, with the profile picture of a peanut lover pink hair girl to wear the same clothes every time or change them every panel we appear. This is real life, and we must change, or otherwise we are going to smell bad. Shouldn't you buy some new clothes and never break an inexistent fourth wall? Seeing the girl still trying to refuse, I said, didn't you give me a camera bag as a gift before? Are you going to refuse my return gift? How can we still be friends if we don't exchange gifts? Liang Jiru had no choice but to nod. When the car stopped in front of the mall, she remembered the bag. I gave it to him as a thank you gift, and then he's giving something back to me? Is something wrong here? We walked side by side after getting out of the car. Occasionally, people handing out flyers would approach us. Because the girl had handed out flyers herself, she knew it wasn't easy for them, so she would carefully accept them every time. Soon, our hands were filled with a pile of flyers. We had no choice but to find a trash can to throw them away. While going up the escalator, the girl turned back and whispered, I'll buy you one too. I smiled. Wait until your salary from the next tutoring session comes in. I didn't refuse because by then she would fully understand how much she earned from a single lesson. The girl's hard work handing out flyers all day was definitely less than what she earned from 1 hour of tutoring. The girl stared blankly at the smiling boy, naturally unaware of the complex thoughts in his mind. He agreed so easily. The girl felt inexplicably happy and began to recall my usual style of dress. Because she was concentrating so hard, she didn't notice that the escalator had reached the end. The next moment, she felt her foot slip, and the girl who hadn't reacted panicked and fell backward. I reached out my arm and stopped her with a touch of exasperation, gently pushing her back to level ground. I whispered, Focus okay? The girl was still a little shaken. She felt more and more secure being around this boy. He seemed capable of solving anything. Afterward, I concentrated on looking at the surrounding clothes, but I felt a little worried. This simpleton definitely wouldn't accept anything too expensive, and the cheap ones might not look good. I walked over to a cream-colored French maxi dress and asked the girl, How about this one? Do you like it? Liang Ziru slowly walked over. The moment she saw the price tag of 588 yuan, she immediately shook her head. It doesn't look good. I sighed and said, Let's go look at something else then. Then I took Liang Ziru and we slowly browsed. We looked at many dresses, but Liang Ziru kept saying they weren't good looking. I patiently continued to browse with her for a while until we came to a pale green maxi dress. This one wasn't flashy, but the fabric and workmanship were obviously much better. The sales associate in the store quickly approached us. Is this for your girlfriend, sir? You have great taste. I turned to the girl beside me and said, This one isn't very noticeable. Liang Jiru continued to pretend to look at the dress, secretly glancing at the price tag. Ah, why is this one more than 600 yuan, or currently 84.19 USD dollars? That's enough for many, many dinners of pork ribs. Although it was quite nice, the girl looked at it closely for a while, and finally moved her gaze away with some reluctance. It doesn't look good. Let's look at something else. I smiled wryly and said, Try it on. The girl looked at me with some confusion. Ah? I said seriously. We've been shopping for so long. Maybe you think it doesn't look good because you haven't tried it on. It doesn't cost anything to try it on. If you don't like it, we can change it later. Liang Ziru couldn't argue with me and just nodded. I watched the girl enter the fitting room and then turned and walked away decisively. This made the sales associate look confused. She immediately thought of the scumbag characters in TV dramas. However, I quickly returned with an extra shopping bag in my hand. Then I handed the shopping bag to the sales associate. This t-shirt, please tell her later that it was a buy one, get one free offer? The sales associate was stunned for a moment, then nodded blankly. Soon the girl came out looking timid. She was wearing a pale green belted maxi dress. Her slender waist and svelte figure were fully revealed. Her prominent chest made it impossible to look away. Seeing her, I smiled and said, "Isn't this quite pretty?" Liang Ziru felt her cheeks burning. "Nah, not pretty." Although the girl also liked the dress more and more, the more she looked at it, the price still exceeded her acceptable range. She slowly raised her head, hoping I would finish looking soon, so she could go change. But then I suddenly spoke. "This is the one." The girl was stunned. "This isn't what we agreed on." Chen Lu tricked me again. Liang Ziru looked up at me, pouting slightly a little wronged. I smiled at her thinking, "Did you think I couldn't tell you liked it?" But I still said honestly, "It's a good deal. This store has a buy one get one free promotion." Liang Ziru heard this blinked, and her clear eyes didn't react for a moment. At this point, the sales associate quickly came up to cover for me. She took out the t-shirt and said with a smile, "Our store is currently having a promotion. You get a free summer t-shirt when you spend over 600 yuan. I took the t-shirt and deliberately measured it against Liang Ziru. "Why don't you try this on to see if it fits?" The sales associate continued to smile. "This will fit. I've been working here for a long time. I can tell the size just by looking. Okay, pack it up." Afterward, Liang Ziru looked at me then at the sales associate packing the clothes and didn't notice anything unusual. After everything was packed, I took Liang Ziru and turned to leave. The girl walked silently beside me, her head bowed, feeling very embarrassed. Although it was a maxi dress, the lack of clothing wrapping her legs still felt a little awkward. The girl secretly glanced up at me, then quickly looked away. This was the first time a boy had bought her clothes and gone shopping with her. She had never dared to imagine such a thing before. We looked at each other along the way. I would occasionally glance at the girl beside me. I never realized Liang Ziru's waist was so thin and her figure was so good. I really wanted to try putting my arm around her. This made me involuntarily swallow. Seeing that I was still browsing, Liang Ziru quickly mumbled, "Let's go back. Please don't buy me anything else, okay?" I pretended to compromise. "Fine. I won't buy you anything else." Hearing this, Liang Ziru felt much more relieved. But then I suddenly added, "Let's go buy some supplements for Auntie." "No need. I'll earn money from my part-time job to buy them for her myself." Liang Ziru was so anxious that she grabbed my arm directly trying to make me stop. But I turned my head and asked, "Did you ask Auntie?" The girl with a look of pure innocence paused, then shook her head. "No? Then how do you know she doesn't need me to buy them?" The girl still rigidly held my arm, her mouth slightly open, thinking about what to say. "It's really not necessary. What you say doesn't count. This isn't for you." I pretended to think for a moment. "Then I'll ask Auntie." "Okay." But what the girl didn't expect was that I meant we'd buy them and take them back and then I'd ask. After a long struggle, the girl finally dragged me, who was carrying large and small bags, out of the mall. Once outside, she quickly let go of my arm in a panic. "You're bullying me again." I laughed and poked her cheek with my finger, enjoying the soft, tender touch. "Buying you clothes is bullying you? That's not what I mean." Just then, I noticed a patch of plastic flowers outside the mall entrance. The stamen of each flower had a small white light, which looked a little dreamy. I turned my head to Liang Ziru and said, "Let me take a picture of you. I don't know when the next time you'll wear a skirt will be." The girl silently nodded, not refusing. Then she stood in the middle of the flower sea, forcing herself to look up. The breeze constantly swept her long hair gently to one side. Surrounded by the soft lights, the scene looked so beautiful. But I looked at the girl in the camera frame and sighed. "I hope you can learn to smile." The girl just felt strange. "I don't smile?" I nodded. "I've never seen you smile, not once." Liang Ziru was a little confused by my words, and began to seriously recall whether she had ever smiled at me. In her heart, she definitely had. For example, when Chen Lu sent her a message for the first time, when he cooked porridge for her for the first time, when he played the guitar for her for the first time, and when he first told her, "I'm here." She even smiled when she put on the dress just now, but whether she actually showed it the girl couldn't be sure. She asked nervously, Did I not?" I held the phone up to Liang Zhiru. Although the girl in the photo was a little shy and gave a sense of peaceful simplicity, it seemed to be missing something. Then I said with a very serious expression, "Since I met you, I've never seen you smile." Looking at the girl in front of me who was blinking blankly, I hesitated, then used my 2 thumbs to poke her cheeks, forcibly pulling up the corners of her mouth. I whispered, "Have you been unhappy these days?" "Happy. Every day since I met you has been like a dream." I withdrew my hands and sighed in relief. "Then that's your own problem." "I don't know. I never thought of holding back my smile. I just don't want to cry." I couldn't help but chuckle. "But you couldn't really hold back your tears either, and instead you've forgotten how to smile, right?" I looked at the girl with her head bowed and said softly, "Take it slow. Don't suppress your emotions so much in the future. Laugh when you want to laugh, and cry when you want to cry," I said, gently wiping the girl's cheek. "Anyway, I'll laugh with you when you laugh, and I'll wipe your tears when you cry. You have me now. I can share your sadness. You don't have to eat a piece of candy every time you're sad." The words had just left my mouth when I suddenly felt a drop of warm liquid on my fingers. My attention returned to the girl's face, and she was already in tears. I didn't say anything, just gently wiped the girl's tears, perhaps tired of crying while standing. The girl leaned her forehead on my shoulder and continued to wipe her tears. After a long while, the girl finally wiped away her tears. The 2 of us walked toward the parking spot under the cover of night. I looked up at the moon that had just emerged and joked, "You leaned on my shoulder for a long time just now. You have to return the favor. Then next time you can lean on me and cry." "No need." When the car stopped at the entrance of the alley, I saw that Liang Ziru's eyes were still a little swollen, so I went to the pharmacy and bought an ice pack for her to use as a cold compress. At this time, the girl closed her eyes and said, "Remember to send me the photos you took." I slowly shook my head. "The ones taken this time aren't good enough. I think they're fine." The girl took off the ice pack and looked at me with some curiosity, but she saw my grave expression. Quote, "It's just the phone. If only I had a better SLR camera." Because my own SLR was broken, and I didn't want to use the one Mu Yuqing gave me, I was thinking about when to buy a new one. The girl looked at my gloomy expression, blinked, and seemed thoughtful. After the girl's eyes were less swollen, we finally arrived at her house entrance. But Liang Zhiru suddenly realized that she was still wearing the new dress and had nowhere to change. She could only open the door with her head lowered shyly. I followed behind, carrying the large and small bags. As soon as the door opened, we saw Xiao Kunfang sitting in her wheelchair. She was quietly looking out the small window, her figure looking a little lonely. Quote, "Why are you back so late?" Xiao Kunfang's tone was full of worry and longing. The girl stammered about to speak when I explained for her, "Hello, Auntie. We went out to eat dinner together." Hearing my voice, Xiao Kunfang pushed her wheelchair around and smiled. "I feel at ease when you're with her." But when she saw the large pile of things I was carrying, she was stunned. "Why are you carrying so many things?" "I saw the mall was having a promotion today." Seeing Xiao Kunfang looking a little uneasy, I said with a wronged expression, "Auntie, I plan to come over often to mooch off your cooking in the future. If you don't accept this, I'll be too embarrassed to come again." The woman couldn't help but smile. "Okay. Auntie welcomes you anytime. Remember to come often. But you have to listen to Auntie and don't buy things in the future." I quickly put the things against the wall. There's no way I won't come. Liang Ziru's cooking is so delicious. At this moment, Xiao Kunfang also saw Liang Ziru, who was pouring me water while wearing the new dress. A smile appeared on the woman's weathered face. After dropping off Liang Ziru, I sat in the car quietly, thinking about how I could help the girl now. Her mother's leg seemed to have a chance of recovery, but I didn't know how much the surgery would cost. At least this simpleton couldn't afford it for several years. However, our relationship hadn't reached the point where I could intervene. Overstepping to help would only make the girl feel completely inferior. I sighed, started the engine, and drove away. To take care of this simpleton, I have to take it step by step. A few days passed like this. One evening, I called Liang Zhiru. Because I hadn't seen the girl all day, I frowned and asked, "Are you starting to work part-time during the day too?" "Yes, I'm going to my part-time job at the hot pot restaurant soon. I'll call you back when I get there, okay?" "Okay." After hanging up, my brow furrowed even tighter. I felt that Liang Ziru had been a little strange these past few days. Noon on the 4th, I sat in a chair in the cafeteria, resting my chin on my hand and watching the girl in front of me. Liang Ziru felt a little awkward under my gaze and ate her meal in small bites, her heart rate refusing to slow down. After a while, the girl finally couldn't help but whisper, Why are you staring at me all the time?" However, I continued to examine her. Seeing that the girl hadn't eaten much, I sighed softly. "Is your appetite not good lately?" "That's funny, blaming the heat for those severe dark circles," I chuckled. I had intended to keep pressing her for the real reason, but the girl looked up at me, her eyes slightly moist. "Can I tell you later?" Seeing that she was reluctant, I didn't push the issue, and instead added a peeled shrimp to her bowl. "Not bad, not bad. A reward for learning how to be a little spoiled. You're one step closer to smiling at me." The girl stared, blankly blinking her eyes. After a moment, she suddenly spoke. "The dark circles are because I've been tired lately. I want to try harder and achieve my dreams sooner." I didn't ask. "Why did you suddenly say it?" I was completely confused about what was going on. She lowered her head, nervously fiddling with her fingers. "Because I don't want to refuse you." I slowly reached out, brushed her bangs aside, and looked closely into her bright eyes. Then I asked curiously, "Are you going to class or work part-time this afternoon?" "Going to work part-time." Hearing this, I was worried again. "Hurry up and eat. After you're done, I'll take you to a quiet place to rest for a while." "What's with that frightened look in your eyes?" After we finished eating, I took the girl to a secluded gazebo I had noticed recently. Only a few couples come here on weekends for a walk. Usually no one is here. Liang Ziru carefully admired the surrounding scenery, looking a little lost. The breeze felt cool and refreshing on the skin. After we walked into the gazebo side by side, just as the girl carefully wiped the stone bench clean for me, I plopped down on the stone table next to it. She had no choice but to sit down herself. Then I poked the girl's cheek a little hard. She puffed up her cheeks in resistance, but my finger pressed them down again like popping a balloon. "Your dark circles are so severe. Why don't you combine work and rest? The bit of weight I helped you gain on your face has disappeared. You'll wear yourself out like this." The girl just lowered her head and pursed her lips, looking like she was honestly accepting criticism. I sat on the stone table looking at the girl in front of me and suddenly felt a bit like I was sitting on a podium. I cleared my throat and said seriously, "Classmate Liang Ziru, have you recognized your mistake?" The girl nodded lightly, very cooperative, and looked like she was about to cry. "I have." I smiled, very satisfied. "Then say, Teacher Chen, I know I was wrong and I won't be mad at you." "I know I was wrong and then what, Teacher Chen?" The girl's voice was soft, timid, and a little shy and nervous. I was stunned for a moment, then quickly took a deep breath. Quote, "Just lie down here and sleep for a while. I'll wake you up when it's time for your part-time job." The girl obediently lay down on the stone table, slowly straightened her legs under the table, and her pants were pulled slightly by this movement. Suddenly, my gaze automatically focused on her exposed fair and slender ankles. Just as I turned my head back to say something, I realized the girl was already asleep. Liang Ziru was sleeping soundly with her arms wrapped together and her head resting on them. A gentle breeze blew, moving a few strands of hair that were tucked behind her ear onto her cheek. The girl seemed to feel a little ticklish and slightly frowned. I smiled, reached out, and gently tucked her hair behind her ear. Looking at the sleeping girl, I also showed a very contented smile. Facing the afternoon breeze, I closed my eyes for a short rest. As the time approached, the cool breeze stopped, and the air became a little stuffy. I gently pinched the girl's cheek. It felt soft. "Wake up, I'll take you." The girl groggily got up with red marks on her cheek from lying on it. She first stared blankly with droopy eyelids, then rubbed her eyes. It took a while longer for the girl to fully wake up, but seeing that I was still watching her, she shyly looked away. "Sit and wake up properly. I was afraid someone would kidnap you in a sack, so I didn't go buy you water," I said with a soft laugh and added, "I'll take you there in a moment," after saying that I remembered that I still had class. The brief moment of tension was immediately forgotten. At this point, Liang Zero quickly shook her head. No, you can't. I felt a little curious. Why? You have class. I was stunned. How did you know? The girl looked at me seriously. You sent me your class schedule for this week. I got off the stone table. It seemed taking her wasn't an option. I stood next to the girl and slowly began. Listen to me, okay? Get today's pay and quit. I'll help you find other students who need a tutor. Thinking of this, I poked the girl's cheek again, a little annoyed. Teacher Liang, I hope you can keep reminding yourself that 1 hour of tutoring earns you a whole day's pay at your part-time job, okay? The girl quietly mumbled, okay, but still sounded unsure because she had applied for other tutoring jobs in the last couple of days, and all of them had politely rejected her. Just as the girl was thinking dejectedly, I suddenly patted her shoulder. Don't be nervous, I won't look for jobs with bad people. At most, it will just be a little more troublesome than tutoring my sister. I promise, just a little, don't worry. Or if you don't like this kind of social job, you can tell me, and I'll support you. A warm feeling suddenly welled up in the girl's heart. Thank you, I don't dislike it. I, in a slightly annoyed tone, said, don't keep saying thank you. It's too cheap. Shouldn't you repay me? How should I repay you? The girl looked up at me, exposing a large patch of her fair, smooth neck and the gap at the t-shirt collar. Perhaps because she had been sleeping face down, she was a little sweaty. I pulled back my gaze, which was not at all gentlemanly, and looked straight into the girl's bewildered eyes. Quote, then smile for me. Just smile. The girl tilted her head slightly even more confused. He helped me so much and all he wants in return is a smile? But my expression suddenly became very serious. Yes, that's right. I told you I've never seen you smile. The girl took a deep breath, looked me in the eye, and then slightly curved the corner of her mouth. Seeing this, I sighed. It's too stiff. It scares me. Try again next time you're truly happy. Liang Ziru rubbed her eyes, picked up her phone, and looked at herself. It did look a bit strange. I asked again, are you feeling unwell anywhere? I feel like your complexion hasn't been good all day. No. I looked at the girl's nervous, head-down, finger-fiddling posture and sighed helplessly. After Liang Ziru left for her part-time job, I obediently returned to the classroom. During class 1, suddenly saw a new message on my phone. Xiaolu, this is Auntie Xiao. Zhiro fainted at her part-time job. You know my situation, could you please go to the hospital to check on her? By the time I realized what was happening, I was already standing up. The students and the teacher in the class all stared at me blankly. Teacher, I have a stomachache! The next second, I bolted out. On the way, I called Xiao Kunfang to soothe her nerves and also sent a message to the advisor to ask for leave for the next class. Finally, when I reached the hospital room door, I was panting with my mouth slightly open. The pungent smell of disinfectant in the air kept filling my nostrils. I leaned against the wall and looked up to see Lin Miao Miao standing at the door wiping away tears. I went over to her, my voice still a little hoarse. What's going on? Seeing Lin Miao Miao wiping her tears with the back of her hand again, my tone became anxious. Speak up. What happened? Lin Miao Miao said sadly. 0. She has hypoglycemia. I was taken aback and then immediately snapped. Are you serious? Hypoglycemia isn't that serious. You crying at the door almost scared me to death. Lin Miao Miao suddenly glared at me. What kind of thing to say? She was about to scold me again, but then she saw me leaning against the wall for support with a faint smile on my face. Her sudden burst of temper immediately subsided. I turned to look at her. My panting had gotten much better. But when I heard that Liang Ziru had to be hospitalized, I immediately felt worried. Although I knew about the symptoms of hypoglycemia, I was uncertain about a hypoglycemic coma. Next, I took out my phone and called Xiao Kunfang, occasionally glancing through the glass on the door. It looked like Liang Ziru was on a glucose drip. The call was answered. Hello? Auntie, please don't come over. Lin Miao Miao and I are both here. It's nothing serious. Okay, thank you so much. Xiao Kunfang's voice was tired, faintly tinged with a sob. She had tried to flag down a taxi by the roadside for a long time, but none were willing to take the trouble of carrying her. The woman sitting in her wheelchair listening to the cars rushing by seemed so helpless and lost. It was only now that I fully realized that Liang Jiru really was the pillar of her family. She couldn't even afford to get sick. Just then, the doctor finally opened the door and came out. I quickly hung up the phone. The doctor saw our anxious expressions and slowly said, "It's nothing too serious. Just rest in bed for now. You only need to be a little careful in the future." Okay. Hearing this, I finally let out a deep sigh of relief and opened the door to walk in. Liang Jiru had already heard my voice, and now seeing my familiar handsome face made the girl feel an indescribable emotion. Lin Miao Miao, who was following me, also smiled at her. Liang Jiru couldn't help but curve the corners of her mouth. A smile finally appeared on her pale face. The feeling of truly being cared for by a friend had never been so clear. After walking closer, I checked Liang Jiru's forehead and slowly sat down next to her. The girl said a little awkwardly, "I'm sorry." I looked up at the glucose dripping one by one and gently scolded her. "Will you listen to me in the future? You're lucky we came early. If you had fainted and no one noticed, your brain would have been deprived of oxygen for so long. Even if you didn't die, you'd become an idiot." I continued to poke her head a little displeased. "You're already silly. If you get any sillier, can you even live?" Liang Jiru was too embarrassed to speak again, and just honestly kept her head down, letting me poke her. She secretly looked up and was relieved to see the faint upward curve of my mouth. Just then, Lin Miao Miao said grumpily, "Can you two stop hurting me later?" After saying that, she sat directly on the edge of the bed and took Liang Jiru's hand. "Do you want to eat something? I'll go buy it for you." However, Liang Jiru still shook her head. She looked groggy and had no appetite. I quietly slowed down the drip. "Go buy her some biscuits or bread or something so she can eat a little. She can have a proper meal when she gets her appetite back." Lin Miao Miao immediately went out after hearing me. After all, who wants to be a third wheel? After Liang Jiru finished her IV drip, I asked softly, "Are you still uncomfortable anywhere?" "I'm fine, just a little weak. No matter how much you want to work harder, you must also care more about your body. Okay?"